And I guess I kind of find myself on that spectrum still, where like my first 5 or 6 years of like, getting in the industry, I was just like all in, kill it, crush it, high amounts of volume. And then, you realize, all right, like you can't keep doing that forever. Number one, like I'm almost 30 now, and your
Yeah.
joints take a toll, bro. So, it's just stuff like that you start learning and you start searching. You're like, all right, this isn't working. What should I be doing now? And that's kind of like what led me to my journey. Like the last 5 years, I would say, is where I really changed all my methods for me personally, like my training methods. Going from a lot higher intensity of higher amounts of volume and just 5 6 days a week row splits, and then starting to tailor that a lot. And so now, I mean, I've pretty much got everything refined down really, really well to how my body responds. And of course, you just apply what works to your clients long term. So
Yeah, I feel like one thing you said really spoke to me. Like, I feel like in my first like 3 4 years of training, I felt like any amount of volume was just completely recoverable. Like, and I would be, I'd be getting stronger week to week, and that's what I see
yeah,
so much on like social media and everything. I see these kids talking about how like they progress every session or like they get stronger week to week, and that's only possible if you are within your first year or two of training. And
for
I feel
sure.
like that's like the volume propaganda is either perpetrated by beginner lifters or enhanced lifters. And I feel like
Absolutely.
that's just where all of the noise comes from. And I feel like it confuses like the intermediate and the advanced natural so much that I feel like there needs to be more creators out there that are pushing that narrative.
Absolutely, bro. I completely agree with that because the I think the issue there is, um, how long have you been in the industry now?
Actually working, not very long, only actually about 2 years. But
Okay, okay.
I've been lifting for about six. I don't know if you know how old do you think I am?
Man, I'm gonna say like late 20s.
Okay, I'm 20 years old.
Okay, really?
Yeah, yeah, I just turned 20.
What? Oh man, let's go. That's awesome, bro. You got a heck of a future ahead of
I
you.
appreciate that. Thank you very much. I really try.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, so I don't have very much of like a certification other than
Right.
like the simple like ISSA or NASM kind of certification, which
Yeah.
I agree with you doesn't mean very much, doesn't really
Right.
constitute a good trainer at all. Um,
No.
and I would say experience definitely has a lot to do with it. To a degree, research and like just anecdotal experience and accomplishment. So I would say like I definitely have a lot of room to grow and learn in this industry before I can uh, like actually fully confidently charge the amount that I would expect
For sure.
to for coaching. So that's why like
Absolutely, bro.
I'm not even like openly really trying to coach on social media yet because I just feel like I have to build myself like a little bit of online presence before I kind of earn the right to do that. Even though I feel like nowadays
For
you could
sure.
be like 16 years old and have like a little bit of muscle and already say put the link in my bio for coaching. So
Yeah. It's insanity to me, dude. I'm gonna be honest.
yeah,
Like I said, I've been doing this for 10 years,
yeah,
and I've seen so much evolve over the years. Like I was part of the generation where social media, like YouTube social media, got so big,
yeah,
and so it evolved from like, you go in the gym, and yeah, you got like these people who've been trained for 20 years, 30 years, for like these old guys. And yeah, they had a lot of outdated methods, right? To be honest. And then then you had the, social media come on, and a lot of these younger people who don't have as much experience, but they're kind of searching. They are
yeah,
searching for the right things. Like they're trying to find out what works and what doesn't work. And sometimes that comes at like this cost of it. It's an interesting balance that I find, right? Like
yeah,
again, I'm kind of in between this, where I'm like, look, there are some really young guys who are so freaking smart, bro. Like
yeah.
like someone like you, like just based on your page, I'm like, okay, he knows what he's talking. It's not just like sound bites, like people are like, oh, mechanical tension, motor unit recruitment. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh my god, here we go,
Neuromechanical
right?
matching.
The
Yeah.
buzzwords, yeah,
Yeah.
like the buzzwords, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like if you're on TikTok or Instagram, those are all buzzwords. Whenever you actually sit down and have a conversation with someone, you can actually really see what they know and how much they understand about this, and then really apply the nuance. Because if
Yeah.
all you're talking about is like what science says on a paper, I'm like, well, we got to sit down and talk about the limitations first of all, bro. And then you got to sit down and actually understand your limitations. Like,
Yeah.
how much do I actually understand how to interpret research here? And I think that's a big thing too, where some people may overestimate their ability, and so they come to certain conclusions that I'm like, hey, if you read the authors and what they're saying, they're not coming to the same conclusion you came to. And these are the people who were there for every method of the study. So, it's like the science stuff is really important. And obviously, we're learning so much more about physiology now, right? Biomechanics. And I think it's great. It's still a fairly soft science, I would say, as far as like actual research goes behind it, right? Like it wasn't probably till like, who Dr. Helms is?
Yeah. Eric Helms is talking about.
Right. So Dr. Helms is like him, people like Lane Norton, even John Meadows when he was alive, like these
Yeah.
guys, man, really like spearheaded that movement, right?
Yeah. It
Of
absolutely was not
balancing up
even a
research.
focus before then. I feel like.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It was just lift as much as you possibly can and get strong and train really hard and eat as much food as you could. Like that's what the 2000s was about. Like you eat as much food as you possibly could to get big. And
Yep.
then they started questioning that, and started applying powerlifting techniques of progressive overload, because bodybuilders really didn't even think about progressive overload, not in the same way like a powerlifter would. So, I mean, really only the last 20 years, I would say there's been a huge evolution in understanding physiology, biomechanics, even the nutrition aspect of things. Like I tell people like, hey, like recomping, like, and it's about like written down in science.
Yeah.
Not there's coaches who've probably been doing this for a long time. But actual recomping of like, hey, your protein is a little bit higher. You're riding this fine line of maintenance where you can lose a little body fat but gain some muscle at the same time, right? Like that wasn't really a thing known until like 10 years ago, probably. That's where it started
Yeah.
becoming popular with these coaches.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
so there's so much stuff, man, that is so new, and there's so much to learn still. So I'm one of these guys that I'm big on, hey, if someone asks me a question, my answer is always first, it depends. It
Yeah.
depends.
And
That's how I try to be.
I do feel like what you said, like there absolutely is an exponential increase, I feel like, in the demand for this kind of research within the last 5 to 10 years because of social media. And actually, one of the questions I had written down to ask you was, do you feel like this industry has gotten oversaturated? Because I feel like there absolutely is a demand for this kind of research now, and I feel like it happened almost out of nowhere. Because I remember like when I first got into lifting, like yeah, there was like the David Lade and the Jeff Side and the stuff like that. Like that really, that was it was kind of niche though. Like you really like
Right.
you had to find out about it because you were genuinely interested in like bodybuilding or some type of aesthetics. I feel like now, like with especially with TikTok and everything, anybody that goes to a gym is familiar with fitness influencers, is familiar
Yep.
with these buzzwords that we talk about, but they don't really
Absolutely.
understand anything past that. And as far as these
Right.
creators that we're talking about, like I think it's absolutely amazing that like younger people that are like still in high school are thinking
Yeah.
critically about training, but it goes beyond just reading like the title, the summary of the study, and like the
Right.
claim of the study, and it goes beyond just like literally outcome data entirely. Like some people are
Absolutely.
so focused on like what the most recent literature says, and
Yeah.
it's just like
Yeah.
how about you read the conditions of the study? Like I
Yeah.
don't know.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's
I, as far as like oversaturation goes, I mean, I guess it depends on what we mean, right? Like, I think that I think there's an oversaturation of individuals who claim to know something that this is how I feel about if you really know something. I'm like, hey,
yeah,
how much of what you know can you apply to other people, right? That this is what it really comes down to, that the knowledge aspect of it is important. And again, I'm so, I'm thoroughly impressed by a lot of these young kids' ability to be able to like talk about it. Even some, like I said, someone like you, and it's like, but at the end of the day, I'm like, hey, I want you to take what you're talking about, and you need to be able to make it digestible for individuals, an everyday life individual, right? Because here's the facts about the fitness industry: 90% of us, 99% of us are not coaching pro level bodybuilders, right? Like not
yeah,
right now. Like my goal for sure, I'm like, hey, I would love to coach high level bodybuilders,
yeah,
just because it's so much fun. There's so much detail and nuance here, and they're going to stick to a plan. They're dedicated. They want to find out the small details here. But most of your clientele is not that. So the thing is, like, as much as knowledge as you pursue and you get to know more and more, the question is, can I take this information and can I help other people
yeah.
actually apply it, right? And so in a real world setting, I would say that it's more important for us to be able to, like I said, can I get people results? Can I actually produce? Because you can talk about it. Like for me, like I can tell you, like this is what I did.
Right.
Awesome. I'm one variable. I'm one individual.
Yeah.
It's like, how about the clients I've been training for 2, 3, 4, 5 years? What kind of results have they gotten? Are they still getting better? Are we still learning? So it's like, I think there is slightly an oversaturation in the aspect of that. There's a lot of people who can make claims about things, but I'm like, hey, what I want to see now is I want to see
Mhm.
receipts. Right. Like I hear your knowledge and I respect that so much. Like I'm like, this is awesome because even I can learn from that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But it's like what I want to see is I want to see you take what you're talking about in your coaching programs, and I want to see your people's transformations. I want to see, are they making
Right.
progress exponentially faster? Are your people learning? Are they getting better?
Right.
And if they are, then obviously there's something here, right? But something that I've kind of learned already, it's like, again, if you listen to any other high level coaches out there right now who are both borderline like science and bros or whatever you want to say, if you listen to any of these guys talk about it, they'll all kind of tell you the same thing. They're like, hey, everything that we're learning right now kind of has already been like talked about in the industry, and it's just going to be a cycle. It's a cycle
Full
through here.
circle. Full circle.
Yeah. Except that maybe we do understand the mechanisms better now. Obviously, that's
Yeah.
really the big difference, is that we're learning a little bit more deeper here. But the approaches, right? Like when people talk about like low volume and stuff, I'm like, oh yeah, that's kind of what heavy duty training was, right?
Yeah.
Like that's kind of what it was. It was super super low volume, super high intensity, training close to failure, reps and reserve things. I mean, all those things have already been through the loop, and now it's just kind of cycling through again. And so, in my opinion, there's nothing new under the sun with this stuff, right? But I just want to see people's receipts from this. I would say, I'm like, hey, but I'm all for the content creation though, also, and I
Yeah.
think it's important here that you actually have a good amount of information combating a lot of decades worth of bad information. So, and I think that's important here also. So I'm all for both sides here.
I would agree with you. And I also feel like so many like young aspiring kind of coaches, trainers, whatever you want to call them, really want to skip the line of like having like real in-person gym experience and just want to get straight to like, oh, I have a decent physique. Like I've helped a couple of my friends, I'm going to go online and start to advertise myself.
Yep.
And like I'll speak from personal experience right now, like my current job, I work majority of my clients are in their 70s, 80s, 60s, I really don't have many clients under the age of 40, and the ones that I do have are special needs, like Down syndrome, autistic, things like that.
Awesome, man.
Dealing with special populations like that, with disabilities and such, like it gives you the tools to, if you can, let me, how do I phrase this? If you can explain a concept to an individual like that, it's significantly easier for you to be able to explain that to somebody that you're trying to market on social media.
100%.
And I would
100%.
say, like, I find it crazy how when I scroll on TikTok or Instagram, I'm seeing debates about like 2 times a week frequency versus 3 times a week frequency,
Right.
internal moment arm leverages, arguments about atrophy. When the conversations that I'm having with my clients are, I'm trying to convince them to eat like at least half of their body weight in grams in protein a day. I'm trying to convince them to get within like 5 reps in reserve, like,
Oh, absolutely.
and it's just there's
Absolutely.
definitely levels to this, and I think that there's so much misinformation on the internet. Like it leads you to believe that everybody is like so deep into the literature, when in reality, like if you were
Oh,
to
yeah.
ask anybody any of these questions, like, and you were to press them a little bit deeper on the stances they have, most of the time they're just repeating something that they've already seen, that they've
Exactly.
scrolled on, and they've scrolled past. Yeah.
It's fluff, bro. It's fluff, right? It's memorizing terms, not understanding context, right? Not understanding how to apply the context of individual situations here. And so, I mean, you can apply this to almost anything that people talk about, right? High volume training, low volume training,
Mm,
I mean, everything, anything you want to talk about here. I'm like, there's concept in which these things make sense
yeah.
for people's progress and real lives, I would say. Like if we're talking about, again, on paper, we're talking about these concepts on paper. I can understand I try not to be too dogmatic about anything because as always, as these things evolve and we learn more, there's always going to be like, hey, a slight correction with this and with that, this new thing that comes out. So
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, like with the best data that I think we have right now, it is true. I'm like, hey, a lower volume approach is probably better.
Yeah.
Like how many people really need to be doing 10 sets, more than 10 sets a week, right, to
Right.
actually gain muscle and to progress there? It's like if you're training hard enough, likely no one, right? I'm talking about
Right.
natural athletes, of course, right? Like as being a natural athlete, I'm like, bro, there ain't no way that I'm doing more than 10 sets per muscle group
Yeah.
a week.
Absolutely
Like, are
not.
you kidding me?
Yeah.
Like when
No.
I hit a set of pendulum squats or
Yeah,
stiff
dude.
leg deadlifts in 2 sets, I'm like, all right, I'm good. Like
It confirms to
that's
me.
it. So
Sorry, continue. You're
no,
gonna
go
say.
ahead. Yeah, yeah.
I was gonna say it just confirms to me that you're
Oh no,
not
yeah,
training even within like 5 reps of failure. If you're able to do more than 10 sets per week as a natural that's been training for more than 5 years, like
right.
the intensity has to change, or your programming. There's something I have to just
Yeah,
see it. I have to see what you're doing
right.
because it
Yeah,
doesn't make
it's got
sense
to
to
be
me.
glorified comfort.
It can't be
I,
It
I
can't be
agree with that.
recoverable if you're training with even if you're leaving like 1 or 2 rep in reserve, like, and
Yeah, bro,
that's
I've tried it. I've tried it all.
yeah,
And
and that's the
even
problem.
2 reps in reserve is hard.
It has to be taken to the extreme. Like when a little bit of literature comes out that will support one viewpoint, then I feel like people get emotionally attached to being like a science-based lifter or like a bro lifter. And then at that point, once you're emotionally attached to that training philosophy, everything that you're viewing is just going trying to affirm that belief that you've already decided that you have,
Correct.
and that
Absolutely.
describes who you are and the group that you belong to. So I think it's very difficult to navigate this space. And I think it's actually although it's very toxic, like I would it's the only industry I'd ever want to work in. So uh,
Absolutely.
I want to do anything I can to make it a better industry.
Agreed, bro. I agree with that. Yeah, like I said, it's one of those things where, and at the end of the day, even with these young kids, right? Like something I'm learning, and I call you like you're young almost to me. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of
Yeah,
funny, but
I
it's
absolutely
it's
am
almost
in the
true.
grand scheme of things.
It's like the thing is though that a lot of these kids who are dogmatic who are trying to learn, there's an approach that have like for me to have, right? So when if someone comes to me and talks about these topics, right, and they're super like dogmatic and this is what they believe, I entertain it. And there's a way for me to like discuss that with them without me being like, "Hey, you're stupid," or "You don't know what you're talking about," right? Or "You don't have any experience," or
Yeah,
it's like, look, no, no, no. Like you can meet people in the middle and have a good conversation with them, even if you disagree about something, and help that person to see nuance and balance here, right?
mm,
Remember, bro, like a lot of these kids from neocortex isn't even fully developed yet, right? Like think about that. Like it's a real thing. I
yeah,
mean, at
yeah,
the age of like my mid 20s, for me is when that like flipped a switch, and I just started thinking more intellectually about things and a little bit deeper. So it's like I'm like, wow, that's also a whole other aspect here of critical thinking. That if you're in high school, to be honest, I mean, most of these kids don't have that ability to critically think that deep
yeah,
outside of what they're seeing here, right? So confirmation bias takes over. You're just gonna look at what you see, and you're gonna find it everywhere, and almost ignore everything else. But again, at the end of the day, there's a way to reel people in and to kind of bring balance to this, right? And I think that's what we probably need to see more than anything is that, hey, you got these people who are like quote unquote science-based lifters, right? And then you got people who are bros, and you got people who are kind of in between. I'm like, hey, we're kind of all in this for the same reasons. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? Like we're all in this to do the same thing here.
yeah,
We all just want to get jacked and look good and feel good,
yeah,
and help other people. We just all might have a little bit slightly different methods of beliefs here, and it's okay for us to disagree about things. And but at the end of the day, it's like, hey, we can still, I think discuss things in a proper way without having to like put people's personal like character down or physique
yeah.
down even, right? Like I hate that. Like
Yes,
when
yes,
people are like, oh, physique checks out. I'm like, bro, like come on, like he's 20, he's 18 years old. You're 35. You've been training for 15 years. So it's not, you can't compare this.
And we live
So
in a
it's like,
world where you don't even know who's natural or not anymore. So that like
um,
there's too many variables at this point for it to even be worth judging somebody based on their physique. That's why like,
agreed.
and I hate to even bring up like Chris Beardsley because I do love a lot of the stuff that Chris Beardsley does, but he's another one of those researchers that is like the stereotype that we're talking about will really it seems like they believe that he's the only researcher that exists.
Right.
But one thing I
Right.
do like
Oh yeah.
about Chris Beardsley, though, you're familiar with his podcast, I'm sure, Hypertrophy Past and Present. I do like that they put a little bit of a spotlight on the silver era because that was actually an era that we can look to give us somewhat of a guide on how we can model our training. Because before
Yeah.
steroids were
Before
widely
PEDs.
used,
Yeah.
yeah, we absolutely can learn from somebody with a good physique. But I feel like today,
Agreed.
like they've said many times on their podcast, go check it out if you haven't seen anybody else. Um, that's really not a good indicator anymore. We're really too clouded as far as the amount of uh, the accessibility we have to performance enhancing drugs in our society. So I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
and I think that's a huge problem because I feel like honestly, like gear that causes like 75% of all the fitness myths like that exists.
It's got to, bro, because you're able to get away with almost anything. Anything,
Yeah,
and I don't think people really understand that. Like, so here's the thing. Like, I have a really good friend of mine, right?
yeah,
Who now he's on testosterone because he needs it. Like his levels were tanked. You know what I'm saying? And we're close to the same age. Like
yeah.
it's an unfortunate thing, right? Like my test levels are at 1,000, right? I got them tested, my coach, and I'm a natural athlete right now. Like still, I'm 30, almost 30. I'm hitting my peak, I would say.
I would say yeah,
And I'm also just I've been training for so long. I've been dieting well for so long. My sleep is on point. Like I'm active. It's like these things compound, right? I think that's another thing here that people fail to realize. Like it takes years as a natural athlete to get to where you want to get to. But me and him talk about this all the time. I'm like, hey man, like the difference between you, like your ability to recover, even though you are on just normal levels, like you're taking it to get to 800, 900, 1,000, whatever. The point is that I'm like, your ability to recover is better than mine. It's how it works, bro. TRT, regardless, and I don't think
yeah.
people understand that. So if you're taking any type of like enhancement like that, it does change the game in recoverability and your ability to push hard in the gym to get stronger faster, of course. And so I just think that if you're now you're stacking, right, and you're taking other things with it, even if it's minimal doses, the fact is that I'm like, you can get away with so much more than things that than a natural athlete really can, unless again you're a natural elite athlete. Some people
Yeah.
are just freaks, and you got very few of those, but there are out there. So with PEDs, the way I feel about it is this: I'm like, I have nothing against PEDs in general, right? I never would condone, and tell clients, oh, use them, of course. But my
Yeah.
point is that I don't. If someone wants to use them, like that's fine. Just admit that, hey, you can, do more volume. You can train harder. You will recover better. Muscle protein synthesis is happening around the clock here,
Yeah, it
and,
doesn't
and it's
stop.
and it's okay for us to accept that. Like no one is saying that you're not putting hard work in,
Yeah,
though. I'm not,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
it's just I don't know, man. I think that people sometimes we just got to admit that it's like it's okay to admit this that performance enhancing drugs, they do make everything way better. So
yeah,
like if there was no side effects, I would be on performance enhancing drugs, right? Like it's just as simple as that. I'm being
yeah.
real. I just don't need to be on TRT yet, but one
Do you
day.
do you coach enhanced athletes or not currently?
I've coached. I've had two enhanced athletes. And that was the thing about it is this, that this is what I've learned. I'm like, okay, number one, I don't prescribe or do like actual dosages here, just because of the legal protection, right? Of course.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
more importantly, to be honest with you, I'm like, I just don't feel comfortable with it yet, bro. Like I'm being real. I'm 10
I
years in this, but I'm
personally
like,
don't. Yeah,
I'm going to take another 5+ years and really actually study PEDs. And even before, I'm like, if I'm not taking them,
yeah,
I kind of feel like I'm like, all right, I can have good knowledge in it, but I need to know how they feel. And that's where the line for me about that. I'm like, I don't want to try to talk about something that maybe I haven't experienced myself yet. That's just my personal thing here. So 5, 10 years down the road, if I start, on anything, then yeah, I might
yeah,
take some athletes after I learn a lot more, but very, very few. And like I said, I'm not like sitting here telling like, oh, adjust these doses. I'm like, hey man, like
yeah.
that's not my level of expertise. I don't feel comfortable with that yet.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. That is definitely too tricky of an area to go into without like extreme knowledge. Like, and I feel like it's similar with like with the peptide thing. Like, I feel like every influencer now has got like some type of peptide deal or sponsorship, and it's like I'm convinced that none of those influencers are actually taking any of those chemicals that are sold on those websites. Just because I mean, even if those peptides work, right? Even if they do whatever they're advertised to do, like we have
Right.
literally no and I know outcome data is limited, but we have
Right.
no outcome data at all on how that would affect us
Right.
in 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years. So
Yeah, that's the thing with peptides that it's like, I mean, I love peptides. I'm really into it, like researching and studying
yeah,
like the mechanism aspects of it. But like you said, long term, we just don't have enough understanding of what's
yeah,
going to occur here, right? And so for some people who are really into the field and they understand it thoroughly, they're claiming that, hey, this is like anti-aging. This is going to be like what's going to keep us alive for longer. And I'm like, I could see the possibility, like like things like BBC 157, TB 500.
yeah,
I mean, bro, like these things, if they work in the long term in the way they do, and they don't cause other issues like cancer growth cells and all these things, I'm
yeah,
like, yeah, that'd be absolutely incredible for anti-aging here, and other peptides too. There's tons of them, but I just think that, yeah, it's true that like you got to be careful with what you're doing here, whenever you're talking about any type of compound, right?
yeah,
Like I'm not a pharmacologist, right? You know what I'm saying? Like I
yes,
don't have a chemistry background either. So it's like the point is just be careful with those things. And if anything, offset it. So like for my clients, I tell them all the time, like, hey, can I read blood work? Sure. Can I interpret it? Sure. But you know what I'd rather do? I work with a PN, right? I work with a guy
yeah,
who is an expert in that field. And what I do for all my clients when we want to start talking about, if they want to start talking about GLP-1s or anything, I'm like, hey, what you can do is you can go and run all your blood work through this guy over here, this doctor, and he's going to handle all that information for you, because I just don't feel comfortable wanting to, like, get anybody on something and just have side effects here. You need to talk to an expert in their field, in my
mhm,
opinion. And so I try to collab as much as I can with other professionals in my field, with my own personal clients, when things are slightly outside my scope of practice, right?
right,
And like you said though, but the problem with social media in that aspect is that everyone has a voice, right? And if you get popular on it, I mean, you're going to run with it. Of course, it's kind of hard not to. Like if people are asking, and so if you post a video about
yeah,
peptides and it goes viral, then people keep asking.
yeah,
It's kind of hard not to keep going with it, right? Even if you don't know
yeah,
as much as you're claiming to know. Like, unfortunately, that's just
yeah.
the truth of social media. But yeah, man, I understand though. I understand what you mean.
So would you advise for somebody that is looking to become an online coach, something like that, to have some type of doctor they can outsource for those type of things, or would you say that's more of like a personal thing that you chose to have?
I would say it's one of two things. It depends on what you're trying to do, right? Like if you're trying to scale, which right now currently, like that's what I'm trying to do with my business, right?
Right.
Like I'm working on tons of stuff behind the scenes with website and everything. It's like, okay, the more people that you deal with, the less you can't take on every task,
Yeah, you don't have
right?
enough time in the day.
And no, it's impossible, no matter how much knowledge you have either. And so working with other professionals in the field, collabing with them and people who have a specific expertise, maybe, I think it's smart. I think it's wise, but I think that just depends on the level that people are at, of course, in their coaching and how long you've been coaching, or even the kind of clients you're coaching. So it's like for me personally, it's like, hey, special need clients, I'm like, oh, that's not my level of expertise here,
Yeah.
and I wouldn't feel comfortable taking on that client. I actually had that happen like 3 or 4 years ago, where one of my other coaches, that I was working with, he deals really well with those kind of people in that crowd and elderly population. And so the mom like reached out to me, we had a conversation, whatever. And I just said, I was like, okay, I just knew I didn't feel comfortable. And so I outsourced it to him instead. And he did a great job. And so the point is that I think that it is important that maybe, as if this is what you want to do for the rest of your life, right? And coaching people in health and wellness of any sort, you're going to have to eventually collab with other experts in the field. And I would admit, yes, outsource things that are either outside your scope of practice, or that
Right.
you just don't feel like, I'm going to take time to actually learn about this. And so that's how I feel about that. I think it's a wise thing to do.
Yeah. Now, just to get an idea, how long are you a fully online coach at this point? Do you work physically in any location or?
Right. So the way, look, I'll never stop training in-person clients ever,
Okay, yeah,
ever.
I feel like I can't either. Yeah,
No, number one, I'm too social. So look, I
yeah,
tried. I coached for 8 years first, and 2 years ago is when I was like, I'm going to start online coaching. I coached for in person for 8 years, hundreds of clients. So it's like
yeah,
I'm like, I took so much time to learn in person training that now that I transferred to online coaching, or some of it, it's actually not as hard. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? Like it's for me, it's a lot easier now because
yeah,
I have so much more understanding of nuance here of just seeing people's movement patterns and
yeah,
what's actually happening with their body in the gym, or even changes like with check-ins. But for me, I mostly train in person because I enjoy it. Like I just can't get away from it. I love working with the people that I love working with. And I tried the fully online thing, and I was at home and I was going absolutely
Oh
crazy.
my God, yeah, I can only
so,
imagine that. Yeah, I need to
so
have
I was
something.
like, oh man, I was like, all right, look. So right now what I do is I take a limited amount of online clients. Like I'll take 10 online clients and that's it for 3 months at a time,
Wow.
3 to 6 months at a time. Because what I want to do is, my goal is to provide a higher quality service, right? Than just like, hey, here's a workout plan, hey, here's a nutrition plan, hey, here's your check-ins. It's like, no, like I'm trying to retain clients long term and help them get really exceptional results over the course of years. Like I don't want just 3 and 6 month turnover clients. And so in an online business model, you'll find that that's kind of what happens here. It's hard to keep people long term online.
This is lifestyle.
Yeah, right, yeah. Even
Yeah,
lifestyle, just mainly lifestyle clients, I would say.
yeah,
Bodybuilding clients is easier, of course, because
yeah,
they're
yeah,
dedicated and they know what they want.
yeah,
But for lifestyle, it's much harder. It's
yeah,
much harder, and it's more effort. And I don't think people realize that when you're coaching online, if you think you're just going to get all of these type A and type C personality people who are just dedicated, they know what they want. I'm like, I'm here to warn you, that's not going to happen immediately.
So that's interesting, actually. I didn't expect that. Like, so most you would say that you had a substantial issue with clients that were like actually paying you for a service and then not fulfilling with their end of the commitment. So I always figured that. See, that I absolutely have an issue with that in person because I don't know what you're doing as soon as you walk out of our session. But
right.
yeah, I would expect online that that would happen less. But you're saying that no, that with lifestyle, that's definitely something you have to kind of account for as
You
a coach.
you still have to, yeah, man, because this is usually what happens. People are really excited for 1 to 2 to 3 months, right? They're excited. Oh, we're starting a new program, new coach, and they're on point. And then after that, they get a little relaxed. And they're like, oh, like it's, oh, I did mess up here, or I didn't, I haven't been hitting my macros here, or just
Yeah.
small things, or I missed a couple check-ins in a row. And it's like, all right, you start noticing that people get a little more relaxed. And so as a coach, I mean, yeah, your responsibility is to hold people accountable, of course.
Okay.
And there's various methods in how you do that, of course. But my point is that online is harder to retain, I would say, long-term clients unless you have an incredible rapport. Like you're just a top level type guy who has such a good, record out there that people are like, this is the person that you actually go to, right? Like above everyone else, like everyone knows who you are. And so at that point, you don't have to work as hard for people to listen to your advice. And then at
Yes.
that point, you're likely getting better quality clients. It's not, you don't typically with online coaching, I find, high profile clients don't just drop into your lap immediately. Most of the time, sometimes it can, but a lot of times you have to work and work and work and work. And then after a while, what starts happening is you get to this point of where people know who you are, right? Like I had a client who, she's a high profile client, like, and what I mean by high profile is that, she's not worried about money, right? She knows what she wants. She's very dedicated. He was telling me, the other day, and I've been in this, where I live at now for about 5 or 6 years, like coaching here. And really the last 3 years been trying to push harder. And she told me, she's like, yeah, like I was talking to some of these friends that I knew and, and they were all saying like, hey, wait, don't you train with that guy that everyone's talking about over there in Lafayette? They're like, we hear such great things about him. The point is that I'm like, whoa, like it took me 3 to something years to get there for people
Wow.
that I have no idea who they are, right? To actually know who I am here. And so again, the point is that online coaching, I think is great. It's harder to scale. And in my opinion, it's more stress because you're less likely to keep these people for long periods of time. I have
Yeah.
clients that I've been coaching for 3, 4, and 5 years still,
Yeah.
and they'll almost never leave me, right? And that's that in person, it's so hard to beat.
And
So
it's
hard to beat.
no, you can say what you were gonna say.
Yeah, just say it's just hard to beat. I love it,
Yeah.
and you'll retain people longer usually.
Yeah, I would say it's just it can't be matched like teaching somebody like a movement pattern in person. Like no matter how hard you try with the videos and something like that. And I've had that experience just with friends, just online coaching them like that have gone to college and stuff like that. There's the cues. Like yes, you can read a cue and understand how to
Right.
do it through reading it, but once again, being actually shaped and spoken to in person, like being demonstrated the movement, there's nothing that can really beat that. So I do understand what you're talking about with that. I would say there was another thing I was going to comment on that you said, but I forgot. I'm trying to find it now.
It's all
Hold
good.
on. Um,
No, it's all good.
hold on. Give me one second. I'm gonna find it. Give me a second.
No, you good. I feel you.
Uh, um, come on. You were just talking about. Okay, yeah, okay. Yeah, so you were talking about the revolving door kind of aspects of like lifestyle. And I would say like that problem definitely you wouldn't run into like as like a bigger creator because you have such like a big following that you would be able to kind of cycle through like clients every so
Right.
often. But for someone like you who spent most of your career like in a gym setting, it's probably significantly harder for you to just kind of transition to kind of because if you are that big of a creator, you're not even selling really progress at that point because
No,
people aren't even really signing up
exactly.
for you to get like long-term results. It's more just like, okay, well, Elijah Mundy, I'm going to be Elijah Mundy's going to be my coach for a couple months because I can
He's
afford
my
it for,
coach.
yeah,
Yeah,
I can afford it for a couple months. I'll do a show and then that's it. But like,
absolutely.
yeah, I would. So, what's your advice to like a creator that's trying to actually build like a long-term presence online? Would you say that they should honestly focus on having more of an in-person presence and just keeping online as like a supplemental kind of thing?
I would say that if your goal is to do fully online, you need about 3 to 5 years of in-person experience of training, right? And because like I said, the thing is in person, there are so many things over the years that I
Yeah,
have seen from different individuals, different variables that again, online, when someone sends me a form check video, I
yeah,
look at it and I'm like, I know what that is. This is how we fix it.
yeah,
My cues are just so, it's almost instant, right? I don't have to
yep,
sit here and like think and think and think or give them
yeah.
wrong cues and then figure out it was a wrong cue. It's, after years of in-person training, you just learn how to give those cues much more effectively for online training. And so if the goal is to transition fully into online, I'm like, hey, spend some time, spend some years with people in an actual gym so you can see how bodies move and you can see
Mm,
what actually occurs from different populations of people, right? Because not everyone is as limber, or not everyone is as strong, not everyone is as flexible. Not There's so many variables,
yeah.
and so I would say that the advice, that's my number one advice, is get more experience with in-person training first, and then, like I said, yeah, gradually make your way into online training if that's what you want. If you feel
Yeah.
like that you're going to be better with spending more time at home or being able to travel. Like, I know that was my initial goal here. Like, I was like, oh, if I do online coaching, I'll just
Yeah.
be able to, like, work from
Yeah.
home and travel and do whatever I want. And after a while I was kind of like, well, I kind of like being here with
Yeah.
these people that I see 3 or 4 times a week, and I enjoyed that, and I set my own hours. I have my own business. It's
Yeah.
like I make good money. I'm not complaining about it. So it's maybe one day I'd like to transition fully online, but it's not now. So that would be
Mm,
my advice. I would say get some more in-person training here going, and learn some actual physical cues and work with real people, and so that you can confidently say,
right.
hey, I've accomplished this with this amount of people or just a group of individuals, and I know how to help you in this specific thing. So that's what I would say to people who are looking for that.
Are you concerned with kind of like playing the algorithm at all, like trying to advertise yourself on social media, or are you more interested in kind of just completely displaying yourself kind of as authentically as you can, kind of just because you have that safety net of being able to work in a gym?
Yeah, I would say that the way I feel about it is, if my goal was to build more of an online presence, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. I would be trying to sit here and understand how this works, the
Yeah.
algorithms and the posting of times, and
Yeah.
type it into ChatGPT. Hey, give me like
Yeah.
a content here creation of what I should do and what I should
Yeah.
do based on this data. Um, right now, I would say that my goal still is to get as many in-person clients as I can. Like, I want to fill that vacuum, right?
Mm,
And once I fill that vacuum, it'll open up the ability for me, I would say, to be in a more influential position, you know? And so again, what I'm concerned about right now is, as far as like social media goes, I just post to post because I enjoy it, right? I enjoy it. And I have a small little following of people who follow me on social media that, like, they know me, they're loyal to me, they love my content. And I'm like, that's cool. I'm
yeah.
cool with my 1,200 followers. Like, I'm
Yeah.
cool just talking to these people and then see my post and then tell me, hey, bro, like in the gym, like I watched a video the other day and
Yeah.
it was good. I'm like, oh, thanks. Like,
Yeah.
I'm just kind of, that's where I'm at currently right now, man. Again, I have 3 kids. I'm married. Like,
Yeah.
the content creation aspect of it is a future thing for me one day, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm talking about years down the road where I probably have more time to dedicate to that. In my opinion, the most important thing is my family right now. So social media takes a lot of that time, if I'm being honest. And for a short period of time, I tried it and I realized, I'm like, all right, what do I want? Do I want like this social media stuff and creator, influencer style type thing?
Mm,
Or is, like, do I want to, like, spend time with my kids while they're young still?
yeah.
And that's kind of where I'm at, to be honest with you, just being real. But I don't think there's anything wrong with it, with people who are trying to understand the algorithm and blow up for the sake of
Yeah.
content creation. Especially if you genuinely want to help people. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
If you're trying to help and you provide valuable advice, awesome. Like, I
Yeah.
hope that you blow up. I hope
Yeah.
that it happens for you.
No, I personally actually have an issue with that. I honestly, like, I definitely would want to be able to do that because I see it as kind of like a means to an end kind of thing, like how you're like describing. But I would say, like, as far as the algorithm is concerned, like posting multiple times per day, I feel like for me, like when I make content, I've always been like this like perfectionist kind of person where if I'm gonna
Yeah.
put something out and put my name behind it, I really want to be certain that there's no mistakes, that all of my bases are covered, that I'm actually providing some type of value. So
Value.
so that's like the issue with me. Like I would much rather take like a couple of days to really like actually script out a post or make a post with a thoughtful
Right.
caption that actually maybe if somebody took the time to read it, they would find some genuine value from that they could take with them and make them decide, okay, this is an account that I'd want to follow. And I think
Right.
that's what made me gravitate towards your content because even if, I mean, you're not posting 3 times a day, but the content that you do
Right.
post, it provides some type of value. So I would
I
say I would.
appreciate that.
Oh, I'm always gonna prefer that kind of content to kind of just like the engagement bait, kind of rage bait kind of content. And I've definitely been a victim of doing both. But I feel
Right.
like I honestly I'm really just looking for the reassurance that I can keep doing what I'm currently doing because I really don't
Yeah.
want to have to play the algorithm in order to build a substantial client base for myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that authenticity at the end of the day rules everything, because here's the thing: people are going to find out who you are anyways,
Yeah.
right? And so people who, like, do, like, just play the algorithm just for the sake of, like, they're trying to
Yeah.
make money and they're trying to get as many, blow up as a creator. You can sniff that out pretty easily, to be honest. And then, like I said, you can see when someone, like, they enjoy what they're actually talking about,
Yeah.
and it's like, no, this person, like, that may not be my niche, but this person really likes what they're talking about, and they're just trying to help people put out awesome information. I think that, above everything, is what matters, because long term, that's what will lead to success, right? So I think a good example is Christian Guzman. I don't know if you follow him.
Yeah. Yeah. The
I've
Alpha
been
League
following
guy,
Christian
right?
Guzman. Yeah, I've been following him since I was like, I mean, I got Alpha Elite shirt
Yeah.
on. I have Alpha Elite everything. I've been following him since I was like 17 years old. Okay, when he first started, like, on YouTube. And the thing about him is that if you watch his videos, no matter how big he's gotten, he's just the same guy talking to the same crowd of people. Like, he's and I really appreciate that. And that's his biggest advice to anybody who wants to be an actual creator. He was like, just be authentically yourself. And he says, your group of people will gravitate towards you
Yeah.
over time. So people who use the algorithm to their advantage to grow, it's like depends on the goal here. If some people will do it and they're still being authentic, and that's awesome, because they're going to blow up a little faster. But ask any person who's really, like the guy like Higher Wellness. I love his content,
Yeah.
but you can tell that he's just authentically who he is.
Yeah.
And he just blew up, random. Like he just put a video and everyone likes him and he's real, and
Yeah.
that's cool. But he hasn't
Yeah.
changed. So I think that at the end of the day, man, if you're just yourself, that those people will gravitate towards you. And then, like you said, what ends up happening is you start working with people you actually enjoy working with. And I think that's really probably the most satisfying thing, is that when you work with clientele that you actually enjoy, that you can thoroughly help, with your expertise.
All right, what? Let's switch gears a little bit because we spent so much time on like the kind of like the coaching business aspect of things. I feel like I forgot about. I have like a list of so many questions that I was going to ask you. I feel like I didn't ask you any of them, which is good because I feel
It's
like
all
we were
good.
kind of engulfed in the conversation. But let me just ask you, what was? This is one I really wanted to ask you. What was the biggest training mistake that you made in your first few years?
Like personally for myself,
Yeah, like what would you say for you, the biggest issue looking back on yourself now that you could fix? What would that be?
it was thinking that, so like training 6 days a week kind of thing, right?
Yeah,
But it was always constantly pushing myself to my limits, no matter what, and
yeah,
never understanding what it meant to, like, progress thoroughly.
yeah,
So I was big into, like, I wanted to lift heavy and I wanted to be a bodybuilder, so I was like, oh, I'm just
yeah,
gonna do both. So I would, be like, I was trying to be a power lifter and a bodybuilder, and at the end of the day, some people can maybe do it, but you're never gonna be elite at
yeah,
anything, right? You always kind of be in between both. So for me, what kind of like halted my progress was the fact that I I pushed myself for too long, too hard, right? And then I started regressing and not understanding why I was regressing. So that was for me. It was definitely just the aspect of overtraining and doing too much. For too long. Again, like you said, 2, 3 years in, bro, you could do whatever you want. I could
yeah,
do whatever I wanted and not hurt and recover and get
yeah,
stronger. After like 3 or 4 years of doing this, you end up with like a pec injury, right? Or your
yeah,
knee starts bothering you, or an elbow starts bothering you. That's what started happening to me. Was like I'm starting to have all these small little like knickknacks that are catching
yeah,
up. And then I finally like had hurt several, like 5 or 6 years ago, hurt my tailbone pretty bad,
yeah.
and it took me years to rehab that, to get back to where I wanted to get to. So I would say, yeah, it was just the fact that I was overtraining, and that I didn't pay attention enough to what my body was trying to tell me.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's probably up there for me. That's literally got to be my number one or number two, like things that I would say I regret the most. I mean, that's really what it is with every natural lifter. I feel like in the first few years, they get away with doing as much volume as possible, and then they either plateau forever and then look like that genuinely for the rest of their lives, or they end up advancing to the next stage and realizing that they can't do 4 sets of 12 to failure for everything. But I would say another
Absolutely.
another big thing I feel like for me that I really struggled with was like improper like breathing mechanics. Like, have you ever noticed that? Like, well, I mean, I first when I first started lifting, I was a power lifter, so
Got you.
I was doing like bench, squat, deadlift, but I wasn't really a power lifter. Like, I thought I was a power lifter, but I was really doing more of like the power building thing that you're talking about, where
Right.
what I consider power building was doing 5x5s of bench, squat, and deadlift every time, and then just doing
Exactly.
three by
Me too.
12s to failure on everything else. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, so I mean, I ended up herniating my L5 when I was like 16, like literally the day. So I squatted 405 a week before I turned 17. I wanted to do it for a single before I turned 17. I ended up hitting the single, and because I was addicted, I went for another rep, and I ended up herniating my disc on that rep. But I blame like excessive like rib compression for my injury.
That's huge.
Yeah, I on every single movement, like with powerlifting, I would have an extremely excessive arch. I would pin my shoulder blades back, and I would keep them back the entirety of the rep. Even when I was
Yeah.
doing like a deadlift or a squat, I was basically like completely hyperextended. Like,
Right.
and I feel like that is something that gets overlooked in the science-based lifting community entirely.
Absolutely.
And I'll give credit to you. Familiar with Sebastian Burka?
Wholeheartedly love him.
Yeah, I'll
Great
give
content.
credit to him for pointing that out because like it's that's a perfect example of how like you can understand the mechanisms of hypertrophy. You can understand the research. You can understand all the literature, but the practical application is just not there. If I'm looking at your sets and then your chest is just completely caved
Yep.
in, and you're like you might be putting a gym pin on the pec deck and putting two extra plates on
Right.
top, but if
Yeah.
you're completely caved in, you're not training the proper joint action anyway. Like you're
100%.
not loading what you think
100%.
you're loading, and that's the biggest problem I think with the oversimplification of neuromechanical matching and like the internal moment arm
Agreed.
stuff, because
Yep.
people will say like shoulder flexion is shoulder flexion no matter what, but it's like
Right, right. No, it's not. No, it's not.
yeah,
It's
like
not, bro. Like, look, I completely agree with you because here's the thing. Like, looking back on that too, yeah, the idea of rib compression, like not being able to create this intra-abdominal pressure is what we're talking about,
yeah,
right? Like full expansion of the rib cage, which influences again people. I'm like, hey, I want to let you know everything on top of your body, right, attaches to the rib cage, right?
yeah,
everything's influenced by it. And so again, you talk about like, being excessively arched in like these pressing movements, right? So I was talking to a guy the other day about it. Me and him, he's just so strong, right? I'm just a massive, strong dude. And we were talking about like, pec deck fly here.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey, what I want you to do is, I said, I want you to pin your back flat, brace into your core to where it expands, right? I said, keep your feet stacked at like this 90-degree angle approximately. And I said, and tell me how much you're lifting, right? And it's like significantly, obviously, you're lifting less here, of course,
Yeah.
right? You know what I'm saying? Especially at first. At first, like now I'm at the point where, yeah, on certain machines, I'm like, hey, am I loading the stack now? Yeah. But I didn't start there when I
Yeah.
fix all these issues going on here with the ribcage stuff. I completely agree with that. That is a huge aspect that if you're talking about hypertrophy specifically, right? And you're talking about like, hey, I want this muscle right here to grow. I'm like, okay, that means that, and I know that like the idea of tension, like people talk about time and tension, all this stuff, like those mind to muscle connection, I know it's overlooked by a lot of people still, right? And I'm like, look, if you don't feel the muscle that you're working, I kind of question these here. I'm like, there are literally nerves it sends axon potentials, right? And
Yeah.
it innervates that muscle at that area. I'm like, from the central motor command. So I'm like, you should feel the proper muscle working if
Yeah.
you're looking it. And if you're not, and I'm not saying like all mind to muscle connection either, right? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Leverages obviously are important here, of course, in internal moment arms. But the point is that I do agree, if all of this stuff here is messed up and you're putting yourself in improper positions and you're only do it for the sake so I can load more weight, again, as a bodybuilder, I'm like, hey, I'm not a power lifter.
Yeah. The Tiger
Right? Like, right,
Yeah.
exactly. So there should be a balance between, we understand that, again, the idea of bodybuilders doing progressive overload really only came about 15, 20 years ago, like
Yeah.
where they were actually heavily focused on it. But again, as always, things swing a little too hard. So I do agree that I'm like, hey, we're not power lifters. And that if you're a bodybuilder, you should be focused on high quality technique, high quality form.
Yes.
And if you are, I can guarantee that you will get more out of that muscle group, right? Than the average person maybe does. And that's a skill set that I think people also don't talk enough about. Is it's a skill. Lifting's a skill. And if you apply good mechanics and good, like I said, breathing techniques and bracing,
Yep.
every time that you're lifting, you significantly lower the risk of injury to
Yeah.
spinal stuff, especially, I find. But also increase the ability to take the target muscle to failure. Without compensation, and that's what I think all of us to some degree may struggle with that, right? Because you know how it is. Sometimes your ego wants to take over, right?
Yeah.
Like
Absolutely.
you're like, I want to put more weight on. It's like, but then you compromise mechanics, and it's like that's not progressive overload anymore. You've changed the entire movement.
Yeah.
So I agree with you. I think that's huge. That people should look more into that and think more about that. And I say that in retrospect of 10 years plus of lifting, of 5 and 6 years of not doing good quality form, and especially with the rib cage expansion model theory, like learning about that has changed so much for me in how my body actually feels and how it moves now, because it feels so much more fluid and better now that I'm lifting and I lift proper and I feel better,
Yeah, and I feel like the gym pin is like the best and the worst invention to ever happen to fitness in the last like 30 years, because like gym pin is absolutely great. Like we should have a way to increase the ability to load a machine. Once we've maxed it out, we can no longer do a stimulating set with it. But like people have become so obsessed with like trying to gym pin a machine or trying to add as many plates as they can to a machine that like that's we're forgetting about what we're really trying to do. And I feel like that's what we just went over. Like
yeah, it's bodybuilding, bro, right?
yeah,
It's bodybuilding. You're trying to build your
yeah,
body in a very specific way to look a
yeah.
certain way.
Yeah, I definitely would say that is, and once again, like I'm personally like my gym that I go to, I'm not even allowed to use a gym pin because like my gym like really doesn't like people using a gym pin because they have like $10,000-15,000 machines, like they don't want it
Oh,
to break, like they have like really
I
old,
understand.
yeah, they have like really old like bodybuilding machines that they've refurbished and stuff like that. So and I mean I understand the reason why they don't allow it, but I've been able to you know get stimulating sets out of every single machine in my gym without having to put a
100%.
gym pin on it. And I'm not saying that's the most optimal way. I'm sure if I was able to use a
Right.
gym pin on some machines, it would be better off. But I do think that plenty of lifters could benefit from trying to fix their form first before they try to stack the machine or before they race to try to get to the stack of the machine.
But like I said, I think that people forget that lifting is literally a skill set here.
Yeah.
It's like I tell all my clients when the first day in the gym, I'm like, hey, I want to let you know something that today, is gonna be the worst, that you'll probably ever be at
Yeah.
lifting weights.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's okay. And I tell them for months, I'm like, hey, 3 months in, 6 months in, I'm like, you're not gonna be the most skilled person. You're not
Yeah.
gonna have the best ability to control certain movements, right?
Yeah.
And that's okay. Understand that. And I always ask them like, hey, I asked them like, what's your job? What have you been doing for however long you've been doing it? And they tell me. I'm like, okay. I said, don't you? I said, I bet you have a way, a method that you do things on a daily basis that's efficient and effective. And I said,
Yeah.
and you're really good at what you do, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, that's how you got to think about lifting. That
Yeah.
every time I come into lift, not only am I just focused on trying to progress a logbook, I think it's important. Like, again, like my coach tells, my coach name's Jace Lopez, high profile level coach. I mean, years in the industry, very, very intelligent, and he always tells me as I'm getting closer to my natural, peak here, he's like, hey, Ben, the best way to know that we're growing is knowing that you're getting stronger still, right?
Yeah.
It's going to happen slower, but if you're not
Yep.
getting stronger, there's an issue here, right?
Yes.
And so I agree with that. And on the retrospect, the other thing is like, hey, how good did that set look, and can I make it better? Like
Yes.
you said, can I have a higher quality set by locking in my form a little bit more, and making sure that I'm not compensating or adding compensating patterns here. And so I think that people maybe overlook that too much for the sake of the logbook because of ego here,
Yes.
and we just want to say I did this much amount on this, or
Yes.
I'm running a gym pin. And so I think if people paid attention to their technique and form as much as they did the logbook,
Yes.
uh, you would have people who have better physiques for sure,
And that isn't to
faster.
say even that like beating the logbook is not the end goal, because it definitely is, and getting stronger is still the
Absolutely.
goal. But people forget that it's like we have to get stronger while keeping every other variable the same. Otherwise, we have no
Mhm.
idea if we're even getting stronger. And
Yeah, it's
getting
not real progressive overload. Yeah,
yeah,
agreed.
absolutely. And there's no way that you can progress doing your sets with the form that I see most people doing on the internet. And that's a big reason why I'm a proponent of like slower eccentrics. I'm not saying extremely slow eccentrics, but I always like use a 2 to 3 second eccentric on every one of my
Agreed.
exercises. And maybe it's, I mean, well, not maybe, it definitely isn't as stimulating as the concentric for hypertrophy, but I use it to standardize my form. I use it to reduce my injury
Exactly.
risk. Like, I use it because I dead stop my reps at the bottom, but I still control the eccentric. And, in every single research context, they use an explosive concentric and like a 2 second controlled eccentric. So,
Right.
based on all the
Agreed.
literature that we're citing, that's the protocol that they use for tempo. So, that's, I feel like, what I'm always going to suggest that you use.
I think it's a great way, like you said, you have to
Yeah.
understand like what kind of people are you talking to here? Are we talking to people who are, high level profile bodybuilders who've been doing
Yeah.
this for 20 years? Because their set of skills, are so much higher with lifting, right? I saw they had a
Yeah.
guy who came in my gym the other day. Awesome dude. I forget his I wanted to say his name on here, his Instagram name. Forgot his Instagram name, but
Yeah.
he's awesome, man. He's about to get his pro card. And I watched him execute a set of incline dumbbell chest press, right? With 90 pounds. Now, mind this dude is like 20, 30 pounds heavier than me at the same height, right? And he's enhanced, but I watched him execute a set and I was like, my God, that set was perfect up to the last rep of when he failed. Like nothing moved. It was incredible to see. If you're talking to people like that here, hey, like, sure, you can recommend, you don't have to recommend, slower eccentrics to them. You can like, hey, dude, like, you got this down. You know what you're
Yeah.
doing.
Yeah. You're
But to the
fighting for the
average
last
person
percent.
here,
Yeah.
yeah, but to the average person that's lifting, I'm like, look, if the eccentric helps us, like you said, it helps us establish range of motion. Number one, right? Like establishing that I have a good range of motion. You can kind of feel that range of motion through a slower eccentric. Number two, it's going to, I think, reduce risk of injury more or less because of the control aspect here,
Yeah.
right? Not because that slow is inherently better, because it's like, oh, going too slow could not be, productive here either,
Yeah.
like eccentric,
Absolutely.
right? So context, but the point is that for the average person that I coach and that I lift, and even some of like bikini, competitors that I train, I tell them like, hey, yeah, I need you to slow that eccentric down just a little bit more
Yeah.
because I need you to establish more control. And like you said, it's about the progressive overload. Like, are you actually progressing? Because if that variable starts to change too much, if it goes from 3 seconds to 2 seconds to 1 second, I'm like, we're just moving weight to move weight at this point. And so, like you said, for us to actually make progress, to know we're making progress,
Yeah.
there's some good safeguards to put in place so that people can, in a sense, as accurately as possible, track their progress here.
And I'm also very tired of the myth that like there's no active tension produced by the eccentric at all. I don't know if you're familiar with that at all. Like, are
Yes.
people
Yes.
like do people not realize that it's significantly more active tension per fiber actually than the concentric? Obviously, significantly less
Right.
fibers are recruited. I'm not saying it's better than the
Right.
concentric, but like it's just the parroting that really like tires me out because like people will advise for you to just completely skip the eccentric, sorry, like
Yeah. Yeah.
because there's no active tension and there's no added benefit and no mechanical tension. It's like where in the research is that ever said? Where in the research has that
Correct.
ever been mentioned once? Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those aspects again on social media. Something that's said by a popular
Yeah.
person or a popular creator, and
Yeah.
and everyone jumps on the train, right?
Yeah.
And then you have all the actual real professional coaches in their little
Yeah.
circles. You see, this is what I tell people. I'm like, hey, you know why that a lot of your biggest, best professional coaches are not big on social media? Because they're too busy helping people in the real world.
Yeah.
Like that's the facts here, right? It's true. Like
Yeah.
any high level coach, and I'm like, how do people not know who the heck you are?
Yeah.
It's because he's sitting here, doing a check-in, at 12 o'clock at night to his client, like, it's like these people are just grinding and they're helping people. So my point is that when these coaches actually start coming on the scene and they're like, like you don't know what you're talking about here.
Yeah.
But no one knows who they are, or not a lot
Yeah.
of them, I mean, you got some of the good, awesome big creators who are coming out. But I do agree with you that this idea of like the eccentric being useless, I'm like, man, this is insane. Like, I
Yeah.
can't believe that and then again, what's going to end up happening is a couple months or whatever, a year down the road, a study's going to come out, or a popular critic's going to come out. Oh, hey, the eccentric, we actually do need to use it for standardized range of motion, all these things, and then everyone's going to jump on that train, right?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, everyone that's trashing the eccentric is now like, oh no,
Yeah.
we actually do need it. It's good. And I'm like, all
Yeah.
right, so it's
Yeah.
just what happens.
Yeah, it's the same thing. I'm waiting for that to happen with stretch mediated hypertrophy too. I don't know if you've heard of people saying that you like can static stretch to get stretch mediated hypertrophy adaptations. When the
They
study
just
that they,
barely popularized that, I
yeah,
think.
what's this? You know, are you familiar with the study they referenced though? To
Yeah, Chris is the one who
the
popularized it.
bird, you're familiar with the bird wing study though from like over 20 years ago.
Yes,
It's not even
yes,
human, not even a human study.
I
It's
know.
of dead bird
Correct.
wings that they stretch for multiple hours.
It's insanity.
You would need to like to get the equivalent of that stimulus in a human being. You would need to be stretching for multiple hours a day every day for weeks in
Right.
order to get those adaptations. So
And honestly, you just can't even apply the physiology aspect here the same. You can't. Like, there's no
yeah,
way. It's
yeah,
two completely different
yeah,
things here. We're talking about. So, yeah, I think that kind of stuff to me, man. Like I said, when
yeah.
people actually start talking about it, I'm like, hey, do a little due diligence, take some time, and read. What you're before you just say what somebody else said. And that's kind of what happens here, in my opinion, too much with these kind of topics.
How do you? I know we got to wrap up soon, but how do you advise that somebody like entering like the science-based lifting niche? How do you advising navigate social media and all of the information and misinformation that's going to be present there?
Yeah, that's a tough one, but I
Yeah.
think that what people should do, I'm like, this is what it comes down to, right? It comes down to hard work. No one really wants to actually like, because we live in the day of social media where you can have instant access to information, right? So if I post a video and someone comes on, I posted a video a while back and someone came on my thing and say, oh, that's absolutely wrong. And I try to have an actual, a good, thoughtful discussion with them, right? And I can tell that everything that they did was copy and paste chat GBT here, right?
They didn't
I could
even.
tell. I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm like, you're not even taking time to, like, you don't actually know what you're talking about here. And it's
Yeah.
okay that you don't. Like, you think you do. It's not in Kruger effect. It's crazy. But you think you do. And so what I would say is this, I'm like, if you really want to enter into the niche of that, you're going to have to actually take time to sit through the research and listen to people who know what they're talking about on both sides of this spectrum. Like you can't fully understand a subject until you've explored all of its avenues for the most part, right? So it's like if someone comes to the conclusion that the concentric is more important, which I do agree with that. I'm like, I think
Yeah.
it's more hypertrophic. Absolutely. Like you're
Yeah.
failing on the concentric portion every single time.
Yeah.
Like it's you know what I'm saying? It's
Yeah.
producing the most tension here. But it's like if you don't actually take time to research why that's true and you just say it because someone else said it, I'm like, well, again, you're not doing yourself a favor here. I would advise people, like, if you're trying to enter that niche and understand more about it, take time, to actually understand what you're talking about. And then, yes, look at what different people are saying here, and not just content creators on TikTok. Look at long form content.
Hmm.
That's the problem. Like short form content is rotting people's
There's too
brains.
much
I
nuance
mean,
to have 30
crazy.
second. Like, there's too much nuance to have a 30-second description of
Yes,
anything in hypertrophy at all.
dude.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, and that's that. So I do appreciate the guys that take like 3 minute videos
Yeah.
on talking about just like sarcomere right? That's all they're talking about here. I'm like, this is really cool. It's
Yeah.
fascinating. Like,
Yeah.
but the point is, you actually need to take time to research and understand it thoroughly so that when people do have rebuttals, you can be like, hey, actually, I've thought about this, right? I've critically thought about this. I've looked at the research. I've looked at evidence from various people and different individuals. And this is, the conclusion that I've come to here based upon all the evidence that we have available, which includes anecdotes, right? Like it includes people's personal, experience here. That's just as important. I think that people in the science-based community may forget about that too.
Yeah.
That, you need to understand that I'm like, hey, no, that kind of evidence is extremely important also because it's what's working in the real world here. And so you got to take it, being evidence-based or science-based, as
Yeah.
they say, that's what it really is. It's taking all of the evidence that's available to us, right? And researching it and understanding it, and then using the methods to apply that research, and that understanding here. But that's what I would say is take some time, research it,
Yeah.
understand it thoroughly, challenge yourself to understand it.
Yeah.
And the best way to know is talk about it,
Try to
right?
disprove yourself.
Talk.
Don't just accept the first
Yes.
thing that you see as if it's fact, and then train that way until
Yeah.
it's disproven. Until you can't deny. You can't deny all the evidence that's telling you to change your training. Yeah, I
Right.
would. I
Right.
would. Yeah, I would say that's. One thing that you said that really spoke to me is, like you said, like you need to be watching or making long form content if you're a creator in this space trying to actually make a difference. Because like
Right.
I've been struggling actually trying to make like a stretch mediated hypertrophy series. I think I've made a couple of videos. You might have seen them, but
Yeah.
I can't talk about stretch mediated hypertrophy in its entirety and feel comfortable actually releasing that unless I made like 6 videos, like truly going in depth on everything. Because I feel like 1 2 minute video, just that information alone would probably cloud somebody's judgment and end up
Right.
influencing them to make probably improper programming decisions. So
Right.
like it takes so much more effort to truly understand these concepts. You can't internalize everything you need to know about the most optimal way to train in a couple of TikTok videos. Like you can't just bookmark a couple of
No.
videos and then look at them later and then watch them all, repeat them. It's like, oh, I understand how to work out now. Now I can go to the gym. Like
Yeah.
this is why coaches charge money. Like this is something that
Exactly.
people also forget that social media is an advertisement for a service. It's not the place that you go to learn information. Most of these people are trying to sell you their service, which is coaching.
Absolutely.
They're not just trying to teach you how to do
Absolutely.
it on your own. So, and a lot of people are trying to sell, once again, their own kind of novelty philosophy that
Correct.
is going to like bring them more clients. Like,
Yeah.
so that's another thing
Well,
that,
well, it's just a classic marketing
yeah,
thing here, right? Like if you can separate yourself in the
yeah,
industry and make yourself special, that
yeah,
I have something no one else has,
yeah,
kind of thing, right?
yeah,
You're
yeah,
gonna get these special results. I'm like,
yeah,
nah, that's just this. No,
yeah,
I can tell when people are kind of full of crap with that stuff,
yeah,
no, man, I agree with you. I agree with you
yeah,
heavily about that. I think it's great, by the way, like you said. I really appreciate the fact that you're like, hey, like I do want to make more videos about this, but it's like I have to drop so much more videos, and
yeah,
that's cool because at least you can sit here and admit that, man, there's just too much information here and to give it in these small little snippets for people to thoroughly understand. And unfortunately, like I said, because the way social media is, people just don't know how to sit and actually listen to long form content. Like, bro, I come from the YouTube era, right? Like,
yeah,
that's all we had, dude,
yeah.
was people talking to a camera and then working out in between sets and then, taking you on
Vlogs.
their vlog to go eat. Like,
Yeah,
that's what I grew up on. So for me, I'm like, oh, I still love YouTube. I watch YouTubes all the time
me
because
too.
it's long form content and I can sit here for a podcast and listen for 2 or 3 hours,
Yeah,
like at a time. No problem with it. The thing is, I think that's what people are missing out on is that I'm like, hey, if you really want to be educated on something, then it's just going to take time and effort and then experience also with that, long term.
and when you're having like these nuanced discussions, like even an hour, 2 hours isn't even enough to really cover everything. Like even I'm finding in this conversation I'm having with you now, I still have a million questions that I'd want to ask you. So, like when you get into those deeper levels of understanding something, like you truly understand how little you know. It's like the Dunning-Kruger effect,
Absolutely.
like you were talking about. The more you learn, the more you realize that there's so much more for you to learn. It's like
Yep.
people really need to, if they're really interested in making a difference, making an impact on their physique, like they really need to spend time understanding how they're going to go about doing that. They can't just expect somebody else to tell them quickly how they're going to
Correct.
give them a list of things that they can do and just mindlessly kind of stay consistent with until they
Yeah.
eventually just wake up and look like, a movie star. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember Elijah Mundy saying something about this, how
Yeah.
he won't give out like specific programming advice, right? Because he's the coach. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I said, I kind of respect that actually. Like I'm the kind of person, I'm really this person that if someone asks me a question, I would just tell them everything that I think that they need to know. Like I don't gatekeep anything,
Me too, and that's my
It's
problem,
just how I
honestly.
am. Like,
Yeah.
and someone's like, it's like I'm a horrible salesman, I guess, right? I'll be a horrible salesman online. Like I'm just
Yeah.
gonna tell you everything. But I do understand the aspect of this is what I will tell people. Like, hey, the limitations are that you're not my client and I don't understand the variables that I would need to know to make a actual, like, this is what you need to do. I'm telling you based upon the average of what I've seen work with people, right?
Yeah.
Like the information I'm giving you here. And so that does change, so it's like whenever you're making online content, no matter how niche you are, it's still broad. It's still very broad here
Yeah.
because until you're coaching that person and you understand every variable that's in place in their life, from sleep to stress, nutrition, family, kids, all these things, you really can't effectively say that this program will just work for everyone across the board here, right?
Yeah.
You have to make those changes in real time based upon the variables that are in their life. And so, like I said, I think that that's super important, and that as coaches, if you want to make a real difference in the industry, what you're going to come to realize is that all of the awesome science information that people like you love, that I love reading about, 99% of it, your clients just won't care, right? They
Yeah.
won't. I'm telling you right now, bro. I have
Yeah.
2 clients right now that I can think of that for years, like we have she can actually have this conversation with me
Oh, I
because
know.
she knows more than the average coach knows,
Yeah.
because she asks a lot of questions. She's just that kind of person, and it's like, but that's very few of the clients that I gain that are
Yeah.
interested in all of these super deep topics or just
Yeah.
nuances. And I think it's good for us to know. As a fitness professional, you should always learn and know
Yeah.
more and know more. As my coach tells me, if you don't grow, your clients will outgrow you, right? They'll find someone else to keep helping them get better. So it's upon us to keep growing and keep learning here, so that we can give the most accurate and best information possible. But just understand that I'm like, you got to be able to take that information and say it in a way that your clients that you're currently helping actually understand and where it's helpful to them.
Huh. All right. Well, I think we got a lot today. I think that's where we'll wrap it up. Huge thank you to Ben for coming on, sharing his time and insight. Do you want to drop any of your socials for anybody that wants to check you out?
Man, so the only socials that I have right now are TikTok and Facebook. Like I said, I got off Instagram, I got off everything.
Okay, cool.
TikTok, man, is Benjamin Pina Fitness. There's
Yeah.
underscores between Benjamin Pina.
I'll drop
That's the
it. I'll
main
drop
place
it
that I'll
over
probably
there.
be on. Yeah, you can find me on Facebook. I'm not like super active on the fitness aspect of Facebook. You know, like it's just a personal page. But TikTok is where people could find me out for that information. And other than that, man, like yeah, I do have like an online coaching application, but I take very limited clients, right? So it's like, and right now it's full. So which I'm thankful for. I'm blessed.
All right, cool. If you stuck around to the end, I hope this gave you something useful to think about. Uh, Thanks again